How would you explain autism to someone?
Love. Autism is love. Like, that's all you need.
I'm Michaela Foster Marsh. I'm the founder of Starchild charity. We set up our school in Uganda for the most marginalised and the most vulnerable, and it soon became apparent to us that the most vulnerable and most marginalised weren't attending the school. When we dug a little bit deeper to find out why, we discovered that those with autism, those with disabilities, were hidden from society.
We're still really finding out exactly what autism is, but in general terms it's a neurodevelopmental difference, which means that people who are autistic have brains that have developed differently than people who are not autistic. It's much more of a kind of mixed spectrum than sometimes people understand, and rather than being a linear spectrum, it's better to think of it in terms of overlapping circles, like maybe a bit like a series of Venn diagrams.
The stigma and myth in Uganda is so horrendous that the children are often tied up and left sometimes for days. And often it's the case that the mother has just gone out to work and is trying to protect the child. And so she hides the child away because they are victims of abuse. And maybe people will throw things, tease them. And also the mother is afraid that sometimes the child might wander off on their own, and then that leads to danger. So yes, it sounds awful that a child is tied up, but they have no one to look after the child because nobody wants to know, because they think it's a curse. The fact that fathers leave and abandon their children and their wife, we've been able to show here that fathers stay.
They were very reluctant to say he's autistic, to label him.
I think I always knew that there was something different about Matthew.
Up until the age of 3, he couldn't string any sentences together.
It became too challenging. The world became a very challenging place for him.
For a lot of the time, I think people just thought it was in my head, or I was imagining it. There wasn't really anything wrong, but I just, deep down, I always knew there was something.
Hi Matthew, John McKinnon. I'm age 17 now. It's nearly the summer holidays. I'm gonna have a good holiday in the sun soon.
When he was in nursery, his behaviour, he never really had bad behaviour, but he couldn't sit still or be quiet or anything, which was disruptive. And I remember when it was at Christmas, we actually got asked not to take him in the day the nativity was on because it would just be too much bother.
When he was younger and we'd go to soft play areas or just any area where, even a park for example, and if Josh had a meltdown, you get a lot of comments from other mothers. I think when knowing in my heart of hearts that Josh had autism, but actually being given the diagnosis, it was like, okay, there's a label on it now.
I am the father of Isam Kane, who's in S4 in the special unit here in William Wood School. Isam was a little bit difficult to be diagnosed because of many things. He was paying attention to us when he plays, the eye contact. So he had a lot of signs that would negate the autism from him. So it was a little bit, at maybe 5 or 6 years old, he was diagnosed as an autistic child. We were lost as parents because we didn't know anything about autism whatsoever. We knew that this child is a little bit different than the rest, but we had to go through a very long process of education to educate ourselves about this condition. It is this frustration of him not being able to communicate what's in his thought or brain that makes the situation a little bit difficult.
Communication is a huge thing which goes both ways. If you define someone as autism as just having problems to do with communication, that suggests that that problem only sits with the autistic person. Whereas if you can find a way of communicating with the autistic person in a way that they're able to access, then they're more likely to respond to what you're trying to communicate.
Autism is very common, and there is such a spectrum. In Uganda, there is no diagnosis. There is nobody there to help at all, and it's obviously quite traumatic for the families when they get that diagnosis. I came to hear about the communication support service in William Wood High School through Angela Smythe. Angela and I have basically been friends since the Brownies, and she was very interested in the work that Starchild were doing and invited me along to speak to the children at the communication support service.
My name is John Moffat. I'm the principal teacher of Learning Support in the Communication Support Service at William Wood High School. The service, as we have it just now, caters for 28 pupils in total, and we support them with the transition from primary over to secondary. The ultimate aim for the service as it stands just now is for young people to come in first and second year, develop their communication skills, but as they get older, to access mainstream more and more across the school. So although it's a separate support service within a mainstream school, they're very, very much part of the school.
The unit was set up 5 years ago because it was identified that there wasn't really a service available for children who maybe weren't quite ready to fit into a mainstream high school, but had been in a smaller service within primary. So we were really looking to mirror that and have somewhere where they could learn at just a bit of a slower pace than the children who were accessing mainstream.
We have an educational psychologist who is linked with the service, who we meet on a semi-regular basis, and they will give us advice on how to manage and support young people. We also, to a lesser extent, have speech and language therapists and occupational therapists who come in and advise in relation to certain young people as well.
Our kids don't use them, but sometimes you maybe use a thing like a thermometer, so that a child would let you know how, if they're really angry, they're up here, and if they can't express the words, then they would just point. And the other thing that we use on a daily basis is one of these, where you ask a child how they're feeling. So if they're sad, they're happy, they're bored, it might give you a little understanding as to what the rest of the day will be. So depending on what way the child's coming in can determine how their learning's going to be for the day.
Because the service is still in its sort of infancy, this is the first year that we have had one pupil who has made the transition beyond the service. So she will now go to college, and she will go to college full time. So for us, that's a success.
Michaela put a post up about looking for art packs for Uganda. So we created 20 art packs, and we filled them up with all sorts of art materials for the kids. And we also sponsor a boy, Hamida. He's a primary 7 child, and in order to get a secondary education in Uganda, you have to be sponsored or pay for it, and his family wouldn't have been in the position to do that.
How old is he?
13.
Oh, he's younger than us.
Our kids are learning about Uganda, learning about culture, learning what those children have to do, how they get to school, and with the knowledge that the kids here have got, they'll pass some of that over to the kids in Uganda.
Today I'm here to talk about what it's like supporting a boy in Uganda called Hamadou. I've got to say, we received 2 letters and they're absolutely amazing. He's telling us what it's like starting school, how he's coping, and I've got to say, I'm really proud of him.
My name is Sen Longo Hamadou. I am willing this letter to you that have given me and a chance of going to school. I was your support. I am happy with the school, going to school community.
I've got to say, working with Starchild is amazing, supporting Hamadou. I'm really proud of him for starting school, and yeah, I really love working with Starchild, and I really hope to keep working with them in the future.
Yes.
Hamadou?
Yeah.
Where is he?
Uganda.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What age is he?
13.
Alright. You're going to try and find out his birthday, aren't you?
Yeah.
So you can send him a card for the next one.
To me, It feels like an honor. I am very sorry for those people that can't come, for those who are poor. That's why I'm helping out.
One in particular, Aaron had made up special boxes for boys and girls, and with no prompting at all, she had gone away and thought what they needed the most. She'd obviously heard what I'd been speaking about, taken it all on board, and came back with boxes with girls and boys, basics like soap, sanitary care, underpants, things that we would take for granted.
When I heard about it, I thought, why not do something for them? We wrote a book to learn about autism because over there they don't recognise it. It's amazing. Starchild is one of the best actual charities I've heard about, and it's just a really amazing thing.
It's absolutely great at Williamwood. I mean, they have so many activities for these children. They love animals. It's fantastic. There was one day I was in, they had owls. And just to watch them, they're playing, they've got a great play field, they do cooking, they do yoga. I mean, it's just fantastic, the different facilities that are available. And the music is so rich. Angela and I have sat there listening to them sometimes with tears in our eyes. And you see at our school in Uganda, it's art, it's a creative art school. And I think all these sensory things are just so great for children that have autism.
My name's Mabel Halliday and I teach at Williamwood High School. I'm the principal teacher of art and design, and I'm very, very lucky to be in a position where I work very, very closely with a group of children who have autism, and it has basically changed their lives. But more than anything, it's changed our lives. It's kind of opened us up to just a way of thinking, a way of dealing with children, a way of working with our subject more intensely, and the joys of actually developing these skills with a group of students who actually find it quite difficult to communicate, who in actual fact find it quite difficult to even translate their ideas and thoughts, and suddenly, within a matter of seconds, their life is unveiled in front of us and revealed in front of us to kind of give us some kind of insight about what they're thinking and how they're feeling. Obviously, we have developed these wonderful relationships with these students, and in many ways we have a group of students who have just left in 6th year, but our first kind of initial meetings with them was when they were in 1st year, and it's actually changed our lives and their lives because we're now one big family. And one of our students, Matthew, who's a fabulous reader and obsessed by David Walliams, I think it completely changed his life because he was in charge of us. He was in charge of 11 other people plus 4 members of staff, and it gave him an opportunity, gave him a voice. It was very much part of his interest. It was very much about him, but we collectively worked with him to arrive at this goal of redecorating this fabulous window display. And it's so wonderful to be in a position where, because of the nature of the department, it's open plan, but it gives us this perfect opportunity. It's about freedom, it's about accessibility. Although they're working in one classroom, they have the opportunity to work with many other students.
They make you really, really comfortable for your learning, whereas in my former school, what they kind of done with me was they left me to kind of do whatever I wanted to for myself. They gave me a book and they sat me in the corner of the room and didn't sort of teach me anything. They didn't talk to me. I spent the 6 hours there doing nothing virtually except from reading. So when I took the move to Williamwood, I was pleasantly surprised by how welcoming and how lovely everyone was. Say I'm going to a shop and there's lots of people, I can't do that. I feel really uncomfortable and quite stressed. and I feel I have to remove myself from the situation as quickly as possible. Because I find breathing is good when you're in a bad situation like that. If you take deep breath and try not to focus on the noise or the crowd, you can usually zone yourself out. Or just fidgeting with something, whether it's your fingers or something, a bit of thread. Just fidgeting with that can take your mind off of whatever's going on, the loud noise of the crowd for me. I like screenwriting, I like camera work, I like everything about film. I want to do screenwriting in the future, that's my ideal job. I like the idea of uni, so yeah, I hope to stay in school as long as I can.
Find out what your child is good at, even if it's only roller skating, but you may find that, you know, they could be a top engineer, and that's the girls or the boys. It's really a case of who that child is as an individual and what their specific abilities are, but try to focus on those.
I've been working down the communications unit with a boy. He's in the 3rd year. I was asked to go down once a week last year just to help out because the teacher hadn't done that much maths, and he was able to do like long division in his head, which I can't even do. And I'm a maths teacher, so it was absolutely fascinating that he could do it.
156 divided by 12.
13.
So I think that's definitely a thing that some autistic kids can be gifted, and it's absolutely wonderful.
A lot of autistic children will have spent an awful lot of their lives being told how wrong they are and being made to feel like everything they are, the way they see the world, the way their brain works, how they process information, that it's wrong. And their sense of selves and their self-identity and their self-esteem is really, really badly damaged, and that has a massive impact on them as they grow into adulthood.
Having autism can be hard, you know. You find it hard to talk to people and speak to your teachers about your problems, what's going on. You see the world a bit differently, and sometimes it's hard, but you know what? You'll get through it. Just keep going, try your best. Follow your dreams, you'll be successful.
My name is Yvonne O'Hara and I am Cormac's mum. 7 years at mainstream primary had gone well, but the transition to secondary was just too difficult, and his health and well-being just deteriorated.
I was really sad. There was no help for me there. It was stressful. It was basically, my mind was spinning. My family managed to find the autism base at Williamwood High School called the Communication Support Service, and that really helped me.
The difference here was you have this giant safety net, basically, this invisible net that's there for the children. One of the PE teachers said to me, "Do you realise Cormac's quite good at running?" And I said, "Really?" Because he'd been so bogged down before with all his problems and just things becoming too much for him that he wasn't able to spread his wings and go and find other things. He was just so stuck.
Now I've been picked for the Paralympic selectors for Team GB, which I never thought I'd achieve, so I was pretty surprised at that. I've also been going for head boy for this school as well, which I was aiming to achieve ever since I actually joined my other school. It will just show how far I've come.
So the story for him couldn't be any more positive. He's a boy with profound difficulties with autism and epilepsy, and he copes with those disabilities really, really well, but he relies heavily on other people to help him navigate through what is a really challenging and difficult world for these boys and girls. You know, Cormac is integrated in mainstream, mostly now, and accepted by all the other children in mainstream. I think he's a bit of a celebrity with his running and just his personality. You know, people have got to know him because he's been allowed that opening.
It's just been a total revival.
When you had the Stars for Starchild event and Matthew helped out on one of the stalls, he was so looking forward to that, and I thought, well, it might be busy, there'll be people there he doesn't know, he might get stressed, but he was so relaxed. And he was there, for, as you know, for the whole thing. It was terrific to see him like that. It was just amazing, it really was. I just can't believe some of the things he's been doing. But he loves drama, acting. He loves to read. He's superb reader, puts on all these different voices. And
Well, what on earth do we have here? The policeman knew exactly who it was without looking down. He had been deciding to make Mr. Gilbert Goody's life an utter misery for many years.
Very, very grateful to have been given a placement for Josh. I know how precious these places are, and he's come on leaps and bounds from diagnosis until now. Complete change in a little boy.
I'm still kind of thinking what I want to grow up and I have YouTube. I might be someone on that. I'm thinking of doing that. I'm thinking of being a YouTuber one day.
We never thought 1 second that Isam would make it to secondary school or something like that. Never, ever. And he's doing miracles here. He's doing great. He's very well disciplined. He respects everybody. He's got friends.
People put it under an umbrella. It's a generic thing that, oh, you've got autism, oh, you fall under that category. Maybe you do, but they're all so different and all completely different personalities.
And I think it's been good for us. I think we've learned loads from our children as well. I think I'm definitely a better person from working with our children. I think I'm a lot more patient, understanding than I was before.
There is a body of work to be done to make people in wider society appreciate that although they have certain support needs, they've got lots to offer as well. And when people understand that, then I think our fears in terms of what lies ahead for certain young people will reduce.
Access good information, so don't get tempted or sucked in by people selling crack cures. There are no cures for autism. It's not an illness. It's not a disease. It's not something to be ashamed of. Your autistic child will have great challenges in life, but everyone has great challenges in life.
They are a gift of God. A lot of people see it a different way, but whoever see it different way, they are in the wrong. They are a gift of God. They are a blessing.
If you're going to make the commitment to have a child, you should always stay and sort of look after it. It's just very simple. I think it's not right that you'd even have a thought about leaving something that you've created.
And I've got a wee brother who's got autism, and he's just like, even though he's a pain, he is amazing. He's brilliant at art. He's just one of a kind that you never see. Because if we didn't have autistic people, having everyone the same would be really boring.
I've met some absolutely incredible women in Uganda and a group that have tried to bring themselves together to meet, to try and support each other, and that has given them a little bit of support. But again, they have to kind of be quite hidden in their meetings. And I've also met a woman, Dorothy, who set up the Dorner Centre for Autism because her husband abused herself and her child. And she's just a remarkable woman, but they just don't have the money, they don't have the capacity really to home the amount of children that need that care. But the will is there, the determination is there. And again, I hope to work alongside Autism Voice in Uganda and the Dorner Centre so that we can help to bring about some change. And I think with partners in the UK like Mellow Parenting and William Wood, that we have the potential to actually make an impact in Uganda and hopefully change things for the better. Anything that Starchild can do to help to break down those stigmas and myths and bring the community together to help that child and the parent, then, you know, that's why we're doing it, really. They see the world differently, and frankly I wish more people saw the world the way they do. They have such sensitivities that if the world saw things the way they do, we might be in a much better place.
If you find yourself all alone and you just want to go home and get into bed with your favourite Ted, then listen to these words instead. If you feel like a freak or a geek and you're weak and life looks bleak cause you're meek and oblique, so to speak, then stop your worrying because you are unique, just like me, and say I'm me, 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 and you are you, 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 so why don't we be happy together?